What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be looking at the Jungle Cup once again, and the team we're going to take a look at today is Steelix, Corviknight, and Pangoro. However, this is no normal Corviknight. Corviknight is running its double legacy moveset of both Air Cutter and Iron Head for improved pacing and better coverage in this meta. With Iron Head, you actually pick up three really important matchups which are top meta picks for this meta, and that is Credilli, Piloswine, and Togekiss, which is really cool. Same pretty much average, same record. You end up dropping Claydol, Galarian Moltres, and Runerigus, but to be honest, I've seen way more Credilli, Piloswine, and Togekiss than I've seen Claydol, Moltres, and Runerigus. I don't even think I've seen any of those, so that's why I decided to run Iron Head today. We've paired it up with a Steelix on the lead and a Pangoro in the back to sweep. I do want to say thank you guys. We're getting so close to 4K subs, so appreciate everyone for tuning in. But without further ado, let's hop into these battles. Alright, heading into the first match, we've got Steelix into Credilli, so two better answers in the back. I'm going to safe switch into my Corviknight, and I'm instantly punished with a Talonflame. I'm unable to, I don't have any good neutral coverage here with the payback, so I'm forced to go straight Air Cutter in this matchup, but we do get a boost, and the opponent is naturally going to overfarm in this matchup, as they have such a dominant matchup here. Two Air Cutters connect, that puts them deep into the yellow health, and if they let me get to a third, I got two boosts, so a third Air Cutter would actually KO. This forces them to throw their energy. A Fly does pick up the knockout, but because they went Fly, I have a feeling they're Fly Brave Bird, which means I will just let this go. Brave Bird will still do a little bit of chip. It's actually just the Fly, but we're going to get the full Thunder Fang farm down, and if that Credilli comes back in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tank a move and then pivot into my Pangoro, because I want this Credilli to basically be energy dry when I come back in order for me to outpace. So now in comes the Pangoro. In the back is a Drifblim from the opponent. So Night Slash would be super effective as well, but this Rock Slide for coverage is very nice. It nearly one-shots the Drifblim, and I think we can potentially go for a 2-shield Karate Chop farm down. It's going to be tough, especially with the Icy Wind debuff. It's going to be very close. I don't think I can get it, so I'm going to throw at the very last second, going for Rock Slide number 2. Does the opponent let this go, or they do? So now they're trusting in 2-shield Credilli. I'm going to farm up to the back-to-back close combats. Here comes close combat number 1. Does the opponent respect it with a shield? Yes, they do. So now in comes the Steelix. Steelix will be able to go for a crunch. This will do some pretty solid neutral chip. I just need to grab that final shield so that I can basically win with the close combat that I have banked on my Pangoro. I end up making it to the Psychic Fangs on the CMP tie, but losing CMP, but I will put up the shield because I know I win CMP in this matchup. It does not matter. They end up dumping their energy right away as well. They don't even farm up to another charge move, which means yes, Grass Knot will be enough to pick up the knockout, but we are not in one acid farm down range, and even if we were, we have the close combat loaded. Close combat is massive overkill. It picks the knockout on the Credilli, and we're able to take a game 1 win. Into the next match, we've got Steelix into Fortress. This is a pretty good lead, as this is a Volt Switch Fortress, which means Volt Switch is double resisted, and we have a pacing advantage. Unfortunately for me, one crunch is not enough to knock out, and most Volt Switch Fortresses are on Earthquake. So my opponent goes for a shield. You better believe I'm going to respect this right back, and the opponent ends up going for a double resisted Rock Tomb bait, a very risky bait, but it ends up paying off in a big way. But I say no to that. I'm going to go for a catch onto my Corviknight, getting the catch of the Earthquake where it is resisted, but the opponent can just stay in this matchup. They won't be able to make it to a Rock Tomb before I get to the Air Cutter, however, and Air Cutter from this range will be enough to knock out the Fortress. The opponent has another Talonflame in the back, so unfortunately, Iron Head not coming into too much use in these matchups just yet. But you will see it does come in later. They do end up getting a full Incinerate farm down. I'm going to hope once again that this opponent is not on Flame Charge. I have seen a lot of Flame Charge Talonflames, but fortunately these back-to-back are not. And in the back is a Greninja for my opponent. My opponent likely knows I'm completely walled, so I'm hoping they let this go, and they do. That does some pretty solid chip. That allows me to get to a second charge move, and this is double resisted. Does the opponent respect it with a shield? No, they do not. That's going to allow me to nearly get a full Thunderfang farm down. They will be able to pick up the knockout with a Night Slash. Night Slash actually doesn't KO. We snipe with a Karate Chop from the Pangoro, and they lose their other Night Slash. Back in comes the Talonflame, but because they just jumped a Brave Bird, I should be able to outpace the opponent to 2 charges. So I'm going to put up a shield, and now I'm going to go for the Rock Slide. Here's Rock Slide number 1. This is double super effective damage. It will easily knock out the opponent, so they do end up putting up a shield, but they're not at a second charge move. So here comes Rock Slide number 2, and Rock Slide will be enough to pick up the knockout on the Talonflame, and we are able to take that win. Into the next match, we've got Steelix into Wigglytuff, so another good lead, but the opponent is staying in this matchup. Something is clearly wrong with my opponent's team building, as they are a Charm user into a Steel type, and they are staying in. They are going to go for an Icy Wind right away. I was worried they were going to go for a catch, which is why I overfarmed when I did, but now I'm going to start to spam out these Psychic Fangs, lowering their defense over and over, knowing that I can absorb these charms absolutely no problem. Here comes Psychic Fangs number 2, lowering their defense for a second time, and then I think I will just go for a full Thunder Fang farm down. The opponent will make it to one final Icy Wind, but this is not very threatening to the Steelix. This matchup is closer than you would like, but I didn't throw the first Psychic Fangs right away, so you can only complain so much. In comes a Marowak, and I have a great answer to Corviknight in the back, so I'm just going to stay in. I go for the Crunch. I end up actually getting the Crunch debuff, lowering their defense, so now I'm going to ensure their defense is 2 times lower with the Psychic Fangs, and now in comes Corviknight. The opponent is going to pivot into an Altaria, and I'm kind of in a tricky situation here. Pangoro pretty much doesn't have anywhere to run because that Marowak has loads of energy, and this Altaria is a flying type. Fortunately, we do have Rock Slide for coverage, and I do have a pacing advantage in this matchup, but I am behind on energy because I was slow on the swap. I end up grabbing a shield right back from my opponent. I'm going to double shield in this matchup because I know I can live a Bone Clump from a non-Shadow Marowak from this range, and now I will look to connect with a Rock Slide. If the opponent lets this go, I'm going to overfarm, which they do, and then look for the catch onto my Corviknight. Can we get the Sky Attack catch? No, we cannot, but we do end up going for the Snipe with the Air Cutter. Air Cutter ends up grabbing the final shield from the opponent, and remember, we're 1 away from a charge move on the Pangoro, and a close combat will definitely knock them out. So back in comes the Marowak. Marowak is going to throw their energy right away, but this is exactly the position I want to be in because Rock Slide is enough to pick up the knockout, but back in comes the Pangoro. All I have to do is make it to back-to-back charge moves. I'm unable to get there, but the Altaria does not have a charge move, so I'm going to go for the close combat. That picks up the knockout on the Marowak. I'm 2 Karate Chops away from a Rock Slide. We outpace the Altaria to the charge move, and Rock Slide is super effective damage. It knocks the Altaria out of the sky, and we are able to take that win. Into the next match, we've got Steelix into Greninja. More of a neutral lead this time, so I'm going to go for 4 Thunder Fangs and then pivot into the Corviknight in order to go for a catch, and we do just that. The good thing about going for a catch here is I sneak a Sand Attack, which means I will be able to outpace the opponent to another charge move, but once again, in comes the Talonflame. So if these battles have taught you absolutely anything in these matchups, is that Talonflame is the backline absolutely everywhere. At least they were today, and so that my safe swap should actually be the Pangoro. It shouldn't be the Corviknight, as Corviknight has a terrible matchup into the Talonflame, and Pangoro has double super effective Rock Slide, which means they always have to respect a shield, and you have a pacing advantage. So you can always flip switch if you choose. I'm unable to get to the Crunch before the opponent will make it to a second Flame Charge, and unfortunately for me, this is a Flame Charge Talonflame. They are going to go for the charge move right away. I can't really Karate Chop them down from this range, so I am going to commit the shield, and then look for the Thunder Fang farm down, which means I am even shields with the opponent, but they end up coming in with a Scizor in the back. Scizor has resisted bullet punches in this matchup. I'm going to go for the Psychic Fangs bait right before they get to the Night Slash, and now in comes Pangoro. They are going to throw their energy before I get to a charge move. I have to hope that this is the full send of the Trailblaze, and it is, so that is a huge shield call. Back in comes the Greninja, but Greninja will be outpaced. We make it to the Rock Slide, and I'm doing this so my defense is not lowered, so that a Night Slash is not enough to knock out, which means the opponent needs to commit to a Trailblaze, and they cannot get there before we make it to Rock Slide number 2. Rock Slide number 2 picks up the knockout on the Scizor, and we are able to take that win. Into the next match, we've got Steelix into Fortress, so another good lead for the Steelix. The opponent once again staying in this matchup, but this is actually a Bug Bite Fortress. Bug Bite Fortress does more neutral damage, or not neutral, but more resisted damage with their fast move. However, their pacing is quite a bit slower, which means this one could be on Sand Tomb instead. However, the opponent has farmed up to an Earthquake here, so I will respect it. It's just the Rock Tomb bait. That is very unfortunate. Can I get to another charge, or can I get the full farm down before they make it to another charge move? No, I cannot. But this is only enough for another Rock Tomb, so I will just let this go. And that is perfectly fine with me, because now I can go for a full Thunderfang. Farm down, come out absolutely loaded with energy, and in the back is Credilli. So now in comes Corviknight. Two better answers in the back. I'm hoping that my Steelix energy can land better in something in the back. They end up going for that Rock Tomb right away, and in the back is Altaria. Another matchup where it would just be nice to have the better damage per energy move of the payback here. But I end up grabbing a shield with the Air Cutter, which is hilarious. The opponent expecting me to full send a payback right away, as I did farm up to it. Now I'm going to go for Air Cutter number 2, just fishing for that attack boost, hoping that I can re-raise my attack after that Rock Tomb buff. Debuff, but I just can't get there. The opponent will pick up a knockout with the Flamethrower, but now back in comes the Steelix. Steelix actually has a pretty good matchup here because Dragon Breath is resisted. Thunderfang is neutral. The opponent actually makes a really nice catch back onto their Credilli, but the crunch is still neutral damage, and we get the lowering of the defense, and all I have to do is go for a full Karate Chop farm down here, coming out absolutely loaded with energy to threaten the Altaria. We get that full farm down. We leave with a Rock Slide loaded. This is a Shadow Altaria, mind you, so this is going to do huge damage to the opponent unless they commit this. Well, they don't have any shields left in play, so they're just going to go down there to the Rock Slide, and we are able to take the win. Into next match, picking up a pretty neutral lead, but two better answers in the back. So going to come in with the Corviknight right away, and the opponent is naturally going to stay in and debuff with a Rock Tomb, as Credilli users don't really know how to do anything else. This is the correct play pattern for them, but it is funny just to insult Credilli users. That said, I'm going to go for the Iron Head right away. Iron Head does some pretty solid, super effective damage, and with the sand attacks, it might be enough to knock out with two of them. The opponent ends up going for a second Rock Tomb. We live that very comfortably. The opponent really can't farm me down here because Bullet Seed is double resisted. It's a 3-turn charge move, and it just doesn't do that much damage. The opponent actually ends up committing a shield here, so I'm going to commit the shield back. I'm expecting that winning switch in this matchup might actually end up meaning a lot, so now I'm going to go for the Air Cutter. If you're going to play for switch, I'm going to go for a bait here. I wanted to just re-raise my attack because they were lowering it with the Rock Tomb, and we actually do get the attack boost, and now here comes a super effective Iron Head. It picks up the knockout on the Credilli, and we win switch advantage with also getting a shield advantage, which is absolutely huge because now I can connect with another Iron Head. This is just going to tickle the Diggersby, but that's okay because now I can align my Pangoro, and hopefully Steelix will have a good matchup in the back. I know I can live one charge move here, so I will let it go. Scorching Sands does nearly half our HP. They get the attack drop as well. That is scary, but fortunately we can pivot right out of that matchup. In comes the Altaria. I will let the first Flamethrower go through, but it's actually a Moonblast from the opponent, and once again they get the 10% attack chance to lower my attack. That is absolutely crazy. Two back-to-back charge moves, but fortunately for me, I think my opponent is completely walled. They have not TM'd their Altaria over to Flamethrower, which is actually going to work out in my favor here. So here comes a crunch. That's going to do very little damage with the attack drop, but that's okay because all I have to do is now put up a shield, overfarm like massive in this matchup, and then look to pick up the knockout with the close combat. My opponent was energy dry, so that allows me to farm up two back-to-back charge moves. Here comes a close combat for the Diggersby. That's super effective damage. It knocks out the Diggersby, and we have a Rock Slide loaded for the Altaria. This is super effective damage. It's going to knock out the Altaria out of the sky, and we are able to take that win. Into next match, we've got Steelix into Fortress once again, just picking up so many good leads with this Pokemon, and the opponent is opting to stay in once again. This opponent just going to go for the Sand Tomb right away though, so I am just going to let this go, as I know I can survive this very comfortably, and their fast move is really not adding up all that much because it is resisted damage. That said, our fast moves are actually doing about the same amount of damage because there's a stab, they have that shadow bonus, and they have lowered our defense with the Sand Tomb. That said, this is still a dominant matchup for the Steelix. We can take another super effective Sand Tomb and get the full Thunderfang farm down, coming out loaded with energy. What does the opponent have in the back? They did not want to switch out of the matchup. It's a Dedenne in the back. And this could actually spell trouble for this team, as if they get a full Thundershock farm down, I'm going to be in a world of hurt. Here come back-to-back Psychic Fangs. I'm hoping my opponent lets both of these go, and they do. And now I'm just going to look to connect with as many Thunder Fangs as possible. We put them deep into the yellow health range. Now in comes Pangoro. Pangoro met with a Drifblim in the back. The opponent instantly resetting that debuff. So that allows me to connect with a super effective Rock Slide before the opponent gets to the Icy Wind, and they are going to come with the shield. So I am going to go for the catch onto my Corviknight, as I don't really have any good matchups with my remaining Pokemon into the Dedenne, and I don't have a payback here, which is also really unfortunate. This forces me to go for Air Cutters, and Air Cutter, while it's neutral damage, it doesn't do very much. We do unfortunately get, not unfortunately, we do fortunately get the attack boost, and I'm just hoping that my opponent comes back in with the Dedenne, and that's exactly what they do, which is huge, because now I can ramp up my attack with these Air Cutters. Sand attacks are starting to add up. I could have gone for the Iron Head there, but I kind of want to leave them into a range where I can fully farm them down with Karate Chops, because I basically need to leave with back-to-back charge moves, and I think I've done just that. Can I get the full Karate Chop farm down before the opponent can get to back-to-back charge moves? I think I can, and if I leave with nearly back-to-back Rock Slides loaded, this game is over. The opponent knows this, so they come back in with the Drifblim. They snipe with an Icy Wind. That does lower my attack, but I can go for one in the move. But unfortunately, my opponent gets an entire Astonish farm down while my character just completely stands still. Finally, the Rock Slide goes off after I get completely farmed down, and unfortunately, we do lose that game. I would have made it to back-to-back Rock Slides. I looked into it after on PvP Poke. It would have been close whether the Rock Slide KO'd from that range after the Icy Wind debuff. But, when the game just doesn't work, that is so frustrating. That said, we get a good lead matchup in the next matchup. They have a Scizor, we have a Steelix. They end up safe swapping into a Credilli, only to be met with Pangoro, which outpaces the close combat. We one-shot the Credilli. Back in comes the Scizor here. They are going to full send a Trailblaze, which is actually pretty nice for us, because now back in comes the Steelix. Steelix will be able to outpace the opponent and connect with a Crunch. Will the opponent commit a shield here? We have to expect they will on their Scizor. That is very common. In comes a Gastrodon in the back. We still have 2 shields left in play. Another matchup where I'm kind of missing having that payback here, but Iron Head has come in clutch in a couple matchups, especially that Credilli matchup. That said, the opponent will go for the Water Pulse. We get the shield call correct. That is absolutely huge. And we can just start spamming out these Air Cutters. Here comes Air Cutter. What is this? Number 2, number 3. That'll put the opponent into the red health range. They are going to be able to connect with a Water Pulse here, but I know I can live this, so I will let this go, as I need to save at least 1 shield for the Scizor. They do end up making to a charge move here, but I see a win con in sight, and my win con is the Corviknight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for the full farm down. If I can't quite get there, that's fine. I will let them knock me out with a Night Slash, and as long as their back Pokemon does not get an energy lead, they cannot win this game. So back in comes the Gastrodon, but now we have the energy lead. Mud Slap is single resisted here in this matchup, so they cannot get the farm down before we make it to yet another Air Cutter thanks to that energy lead. And Air Cutter from this range will be enough to pick up the knockout on the Gastrodon, and we are able to take that win. Into the final match of the video, we've got Steelix into Credilli, so not another great lead, but that's okay. We have 2 better answers in the back, and adapting my playstyle this time, instantly pivoting into the Pangoro, and my suspicions arise as the opponent stays in this matchup. I'm going to full send the close combat. They try and call the bait. It one-shot the Credilli, and in the back is the Talonflame, but Talonflame will be met with a double super effective Rock Slide. Do they respect this damage? No, they do not. Pangoro one-shots 2 entire Pokemon. The opponent instantly resigns the match. You can't come back from that, so I don't blame him. That, oh my goodness, what a funny matchup. I had to include that one at the end, as that was just too funny. But yeah, if you're gonna run this team, I think Pangoro is actually the better safe swap. That said, Corviknight with Iron Head proved somewhat useful in these matchups. There were definitely matchups where I missed having that neutral dark type coverage, but you've already got the dark coverage on the Steelix on the lead. You've got ABA Steel, so I figured why not just make it more of an actual Steel type that can beat the Fairy types. I was seeing so many Togekiss, even though I didn't see them in these matchups. So many Credilli. I was seeing a good amount of Piloswine. I was like, you know what? Iron Head looks like a good option. So I had a second Corviknight. I built it up. It already had Air Cutter. I was like, let's put Iron Head on this beauty. and it was a lot of fun. That said, I do want to say thank you to the expert trainer members on this channel: Benny Hemlock, Dr. Mustache, Eliana, Perry G, Blue Nation, Peter Rushworth, Alright 504, Chompus Clips, and Sons of Code, as well as an extra special thank you to the legend trainer members on this channel: Andrew Pitten, Musaju, Noodleman, Speedster, Estros, Fastity Boss, CD Slaskus, and Star Bonsai. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace!